Welcome to the weekly live broadcast of Turtle WoW News with Vrograg. I'm your news anchor orc Vrograg Fishslayer, here to bring you all the top server news for the week of April 8th, 2025. I'm the orc, and here's the news. Top news this week, it's finally here, the Tower of Karazhan 40-man raid instance. Though the community had to wait 4 months for the raid that was initially planned for December, players from around the world have started ascending the hazardous halls of Karazhan. Nearly a week on as of the writing of this news script, and still the raid has not been cleared. Many of those who have tested their raid team's mettle in the new difficulty tier of raid have remarked about its difficulty from both a mechanics and a number point of view. Fortunately, the difficulty has not been so high as to prevent any progression. The most recent reports are claiming that the frontrunners in the race for Turtle WoW's first full clear are only as far as the 4th boss, with no clear indication of exactly how many yet remain. Here at the news, we will, for the foreseeable future, try to speak about news coming from the tower in such a way as to not spoil anything for those wishing for the mysteries of Azeroth to be revealed to them as they happen. In truth, this raid is a truly unique experience that offers a full vanilla-like raid experience without all the hand-holding that many of the older raids have long since had. This is a great opportunity to see a raid completely blind, much like the teams used to do 20 years ago. For those that wish to spoil the surprise that the tower has for them, there are many Discord threads and resources out there for what little is already known. And while not much is likely to drastically change with the new encounters found in the raids, there have been a handful of last-minute bug fixes put in place as guilds have started to make progress, so make sure to keep in touch with any notes and announcements from the team about the raids. For those of you curious about the race to see who will clear the Tower of Karazhan first, we'll be touching on that in the Community Bulletin segment, so stay tuned. And not to be outdone, Turtle WoW welcomed in a new community with the opening of the South Seas realm based in Lima, Peru. Official sources have cited that a concurrent user record of 9,500 players populated the new server over the last weekend. The launch went smoothly with no lag issues, hardware holding them up, and most other utilities not having an issue. There were some minimal issues with the launch, the two biggest being that the primary quest helper add-on for Turtle WoW, PF Quest, had no localization attributed to it, and there were lingering issues with the launcher. The prior led to many not even getting to notice all the fine work that the SA team did to painstakingly translate the many custom Turtle WoW quests, and the former causing headaches during the initial phases of the launch. Fortunately, these have been identified and are currently being ironed out. Before I wrap up top news, I would like to personally thank the support and developer staff for their many sleepless nights last week in trying to see a new raid and a new realm spring to life. I firsthand saw the sleep deprivation and patch madness take hold on the team to all ensure that the community got a quality experience. You are a credit to the project, and keep up the good work. That is all we have for top news this week. Next up, we have Market Watch. Welcome to Market Watch for this week. I'm your market analyst, Vrograg Fishslayer. All our data is gathered from numbers provided by WoWauctions.net, the industry leader in auction house reports. I throw it all together to make indexes of various market sectors, as well as the S&P 200, an index of 200 biggest and most influential commodities in the economy. So, let's get to the markets. And just a quick note on the new South Seas realm that opened this week, WoWauctions.net is not yet scanning your realm, but I have sent inquiries to those in charge to hopefully aid in getting your new auction house economy some data to work off of in the future. The Tel'abim S&P 200 indexes were a mixed bag this week. The Horde dropped 10 silver this week and finished at 4 gold 6, while the Alliance jumped 60 silver in the same period and closed at 5 gold 41. Trend lines indicate the Horde market might have some more room to fall in the coming week, while the Alliance is trending steady. For Nordanaar, the Merged Auction House Index grew a modest 4% and closed at 8 gold 61. With the arrival of the new raid, we'll want to check in on certain items that were subject to previous speculation and see what changes might have occurred since. Right in the crosshairs of the new raiding interest is Dreamfoil. Across the board, Dreamfoil has been on the rise. On Tel'abim, both Horde and Alliance show signs that it is starting to grow in value, though it is much more pronounced on Nordanaar. In the last month alone, Dreamfoil has jumped in price from 74 silver to having periods over 1 gold apiece. For Nordanaar specifically, there are compounding factors. Not only is it needed for many consumables, but the fact that it comparatively drops less than other herbs in lasher farms means it is growing in scarcity. Since December of 2023, this price point has only ever been achieved once, in the summer of 2024, right before the grand economy changes that sent herb prices on a downward spiral. It might even be time for the team to review its stance on this ever-growing scarcity concern. One other item, subject to pre- and now post-raid release price growth, has been Mooncloth. For Tel'abim, Horde, the growth this month was less substantial, but started at 16 gold and ended at 22, whereas the Alliance started at sub 14 and has grown higher than the Horde to 24 gold. These are pretty big price jumps for Tel'abim, where price points are not very common this high. For Nordanaar, Mooncloth this month grew 42%, up to 28 gold 85. Right now, tailors are using their Mooncloth cooldowns and making a mint. Fortunately, Mooncloth is a commodity with a very long history of being tracked here at MarketWatch, and according to the data from as far back as May of 2023, we are seeing some of the highest prices for Mooncloth in MarketWatch history. So all I can say is, tailors, get your bag while the getting is good. Before we wrap up MarketWatch, we'll check in on the price of shell coins. Last week there was server downtime for the March 31st data point, but as soon as things were back up, I was able to fill in the missing data and add this week's most recent price point as well. Nordanaar shell coin is at 24.6 and stayed flat, only up 1/3% in the last month. Tel'abim closed this week at 11 gold 92 and is showing strong appreciation, up an impressive 9.8% in the last month. As always, I advise against buying into the shell game of shellcoin, but I suppose nothing risked is nothing gained. That's all we have from MarketWatch. I hope you found some of the information here useful. Make sure to use wowauctions.net for all of your own market research. Remember to keep an eye on your coin, otherwise someone else will for you. Now, let's check out the Community Bulletin. Here is this week's Community Bulletin, a posting in celebration of player-made achievements and goings-ons in the Turtle community. Let's see what the players have been up to. Dozens of teams throughout the Turtle WoW network have undertaken the challenge of progressing through the Tower of Karazhan, and we all are in the midst for a race for World First Clear of the raid. In these early days of the race, thanks to there being no public test realm, all the teams are vying for the vaunted first clear have had to figure out every single encounter firsthand. There is no guide, no strategy, just dozens of guess and check attempts to see a modicum of progress. Information about what team is in the lead for each server is a bit scattered at the moment. Oftentimes, frontrunners will not wish their progress to be shared to prevent strategies from leaking, though many GMs have been peeking in to check and make sure that the boss encounters are being fought fairly. Nevertheless, as of the day of the writing of this script, the furthest any team has gotten is in the 4th boss of the Upper Karazhan raid. I don't want to share any names as of yet, in deference to those that don't want anything spoiled. Leaders from the SEA server are the only ones I've been made aware of that have the 4th boss down. The teams include the guilds Booty Bay, Sandslayer, and Until the End of the World from Ravenstorm, and the guild We Are Pests from the aptly named Karazhan server. From Nordanaar, and apologies if I miss any names and teams, Hard Knock Society and Weird Vibes have progressed beyond the 3rd boss, and on Tel'abim, the guild Error has down 2 bosses. It is still early days for raid progress, and more reliable information will be coming in the next few weeks. But one thing is for sure, it might be a while until we see any team conquer the Tower of Karazhan and gain the vaunted title for doing so. Good luck to all the raid teams and have fun. Breaking news, this came in while writing the script. There are several small tweaks being made to the raid itself. The complete list is posted in server announcements in the main Turtle Discord. There is already some speculation that these changes are going to impact certain strategies that were used to make previous progress for those who tried this last week. With raids reset just around the corner, who knows what might happen in the race to come. Oh, and one final note about this, evidently the Tower of Karazhan has given the community 2,123 full raid wipes and 87,000 and more player deaths as of the posting of this by Jamie. The Turtle community is, if nothing, certainly persistent. In other fascinating community news, as of the day of the writing of this script, a recent live DJ show hosted by Shiel actually maxed out the radio server. This is one of the first times anything like this has ever happened in the community and marks a milestone for the level of quality entertainment, music, and community interaction for the radio. Radio listeners are advised, if you're ever having trouble listening in, to switch to the other channel on your radio dial, which is just a repeater station for the radio and helps smooth internet traffic out a bit during times of big audience numbers. If you missed the big event, DJ Shiel reached out to the news station and has informed me that a VOD of the big party is available for your viewing pleasure. Links will be provided in the description of the video. Of course, there is always more going on in your community, in the roleplay and PvP world. The best way to stay plugged in is to check out the event channel over in the main TurtleWow Discord, where listings for all kinds of fun happenings can be found. There are already postings for this week, so make sure to check it out. That's all we have for this week's Community Bulletin. As always, keep an eye out on the event channel to keep on top of any fun and exciting new events happening in your community. Now, let's take a look at the Changelog Roundup for this week. We have 2 changelogs to skim through for the development of Turtle 2.0 and Unreal Azeroth, and then we'll switch over to the normal weekly live server changelog for the week. First, let's see how Unreal Azeroth is coming along with this week's Changelog Roundup. This week, we have 2 Unreal Azeroth changelogs to go over, one from March 29th and the other one from April 6th. Last week, news was kind of crazy, so we're catching back up on a handful of changes posted by Cenarius. As always, I went ahead to ask for some clarification so I can bring the news to you. Even though there are 2 logs, one of them is much smaller than the other. It turns out that the developers are humans and desire things like vacation and the ability to not suffer burnout. Enjoy the time off, devs. I hope you come back refreshed and ready to tackle Cenarius's grand plan. During this break, the UA team continued from previous work done on what is known as the Glue XML, or the UI holding together the login and character selection screen for the project. Functionality was added to the Glue to allow server alert messages, renaming of characters, and a host of other features for realm selection. While Cenarius has been close-lipped about when any internal testing might be available, I do personally find it interesting that this part of the project is getting work right now, as it would seem a logical step in allowing testing, but then again, I'm just a news orc, and I could be way off base. Also mentioned in the changelog were various methods of teleport and transport within the game. From a player perspective, these things seem rudimentary, but the original vanilla client, which Unreal Azeroth is based off of, had many minute differences in how moving around the world works. Here in the log, there is reference to what is known as a far teleport, and this means a few things, but simply put, if a player goes from one map to another through teleporting, that is considered a far teleport. This could include teleporting to different maps and dungeons, or as far as a taxi service like the Gnome Tram or Goblin Zeppelins. Hopefully these tests go well, because nothing is worse than getting teleported incorrectly and falling through the world. I am also quite intrigued about a mention of water material. My assumption would be that this would be a novel way of having light refraction work underwater, but Cenarius assures me this modern mode only feature will be actually a whole new material and not just a lighting feature. As an avid fisher in WoW, my curiosity is quite piqued. And finally, there was work on a launcher for the Unreal Azeroth project. Those playing Turtle WoW lately have just started getting used to the quality of life features that Haxor's dedicated launcher offers for such an old game. Unreal Azeroth's version is only a work in project, but did rouse my curiosity for maybe being related to Turtle WoW's version. Cenarius kindly disabused me of this notion. For one, creating a separate launcher entirely from Turtle WoW is a prudent security measure. Furthermore, Unreal Azeroth is a separate project. Turtle WoW 2.0 will be using Unreal Azeroth's platform, but other projects will be able to use the same platform to perhaps host and run their own creative vanilla WoW projects. It certainly is fun to think about what people might be able to cook up in the future. Alright, that's all we had for this week's check-in with the Unreal Azeroth team. Now let's check out the changes coming to the live server. This week, we'll be looking at the changelog from April 1st, which was double-checked for any lingering jokes. So let's check the changelog that came out alongside the Tower of Karazhan patch. Shamans of various tribes came together recently, noticing the winds of change blowing in the direction of the Tower of Karazhan. The whisperings of corruption spread like tendrils through the ground, and as such, many were dispatched to look into the matter. However, on the journey there, some noticed that the primal call for bloodlust they bestow on their allies was somewhat subdued by the magical instability nearby. There was a ritual performed by some of the journeying shamans outside of the Tower of Karazhan to rectify this weakening of bloodlust, and now it seems to be applying 20% melee and spell haste once again, now that the elements are appeased. To celebrate the occasion, a particularly happy water elemental lord bestowed an old totem relic with some new powers, which are still being understood. More on that as it becomes available. Rogues, well known for their mastery in melee combat, have recently been training in new ways to extend their deadly killing power from afar. To this end, rogues have begun trying to just throw bladed objects at their quarry when they run away. But often, getting away from a rogue means the tide of combat is about to swing against them. To work against that, rogues have even tried using poison blades to hit their target when thrown. However, it seemed that the trademarked deadly, agitating, and instant poison would not work in certain circumstances when delivered with a thrown weapon, despite training in thrown weapon specialization. A gnome rogue recently discovered that agitating and instant poisons were so watery that a thrown weapon would leak the poison all over the battleground and not into the intended target. That same gnome has spread word about a binding agent that helps the poison stick to the thrown edge and still deliver the poisonous payload. If it will change a rogue's chances at range still remains to be seen. And one of the more humorous stories following the patch, requiring a quick bug fix, was players joining PvP realms seemingly being able to pick up the War Mode glyph when they created a new character. War Mode, of course, is designed as a more challenging mode for players on a PvE realm because they are always exposed to higher level players who could flag up at any moment. Tel'abim, meanwhile, has a baked-in bonus to experience progression, so the War Mode glyph is redundant, and following the bug fix, those clever tricksters who tried to double dip had the glyph removed. And finally, the Pet Rockstar title was removed from the game. Word came out that some players might have gained a title without even knowing it for having an odd pet known as the Pet Rock. The Pet Rockstar title was actually intended for a certain high-ranking Turtle team member as an inside joke, but when the joke was discovered, the title was quickly removed from the game. However, there is a little more that meets the eye to the Pet Rock nowadays. Anyone with it actually can summon a fully fleshed out Pet Rock from their collection, whereas before it was just a bag buddy. Enjoy time with your new friends, denizens of Turtle WoW. That completes the changelog for last week. This week's changelog may be out soon, so make sure to check it out so you can keep on top of all the latest adjustments coming to Turtle WoW. That is all the time we have for today's broadcast. I've been Vrograg Fishlayer. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, make sure to subscribe and like the video. I air these live broadcasts on Tuesday around 4 to 5 o'clock EST, so if you'd like to watch as the news is made, be sure to drop by. Until next time, be good to one another and stay informed, because the deadliest weapon is knowledge.